Welcome everybody. Today we are going to deal with risk, quality and other important things in the field of project management. So those things are going to be exact risk and quality, project control, project monitoring and project evaluation. I hope that you have seen the film. If you have not, you can go back there and see it. The link is also below this film on YouTube and also on Moodle, of course. So, as we have seen, sometimes the quality of a product or the lack of the quality of the product can cause something exceptionally bad. So we need to talk about quality at the moment. The first thing is that a product differs from a simple production because, well, you know, if you produce things, it sometimes just pays off to not to be perfect. Okay, it pays off to waste like 10% of your output because this is the optimal production quality from your point of view, because this way you earn the most you can. A project, on the other hand, must be, you know, okay from the first time, and you may not have the second opportunity. So now it is important to learn what we actually mean by project quality. I mean, exact projects, the answer would be hard and it would involve a lot of philosophical reflection. We don't have time for it. So, and we have our systems approach, our modular approach. So everything we need to know is that a product is of a proper quality when the system meets the approved requirements. It is as simple as that. We have our specification, if our project meets the requirements, this is it. We don't need to wonder anymore. I have one remark to make about clients, because this might be helpful. As we have said, when the project meets the requirements, everything is okay. I mean, from the point of view of our contract. But sometimes the clients may not be as satisfied as we would expect them to be. So what can we do? The thing is that during the first stages of the planning, of the product planning, we need to be able to learn as much as possible from the client what his organization actually wants to achieve. What are the actual requirements, because we want to fulfill his dreams. Okay, getting back to the product quality, there are other things that can influence it. Okay, because, well, there's always the question of money and the question of time. Because of them, our quality may fall, and the thing is that we need to know what is our line behind which we are not going to go. I mean, below which we are not going to lower the quality of our project, as all of the factors, they are going to influence our project, and we need to take them into consideration. So, in other words, A good quality always costs money and takes time. And money and time are the factors that can actually influence our quality, and we need to be able to consider those factors from the very beginning of our project, actually from the very beginning of planning of our project. If we don't have enough resources, then we may not be able to achieve the quality that we would imagine we would like to achieve. In general, quality planning is something that we need to include in the general project plan, because this is as important as everything else. Okay, this is as important as budget, as our schedule. It is no less important than those basic factors. So we need to learn from now on that except budget and schedule and resources, there's also quality. So there are quality requirements that we need to meet, and talking about them is as normal as dealing with budget cuts and so on. Some other words on product quality. So as we have said, good quality means just done according to the specification, and we don't need to wonder. Usually it doesn't mean perfection, and believe me, the word perfection, even if it sounds perfect, is not that easy to define. Okay? We need to make some calculation, even though we would like the product to be, let's say, close to perfection. Our resources will decide in the end what quality we can afford, or how much of the quality we need to devote if we want to stick to the lower budget possible, and so on. So these are the things that we need to be able to balance. So actually planning quality is being able to balance quality with resources, with time, and so on. Usually the important thing is that there may be some factors or priorities that we should never ever let go. Okay, like the security of our people, because besides money, it may cause great troubles, and we wouldn't like anyone to be put in a bad situation because of that. So except balancing time, money, and quality, we need to take into consideration some hard priorities, if there are such priorities. The next thing for today is risk management. So we need to deal with that as well as with product quality. So basically, the risk is the function of two factors: the probability that something bad will happen and the impact of this thing on our project. The project is risky when those factors multiplied by each other are high, so we can also calculate the risk, and it is going to be from 0 to 100%, and we can deal with quality we can deal with risk as we deal with quality, the time and money factor in our project. So what do we take into consideration? First of all, if the multiplication of the probability and impact are high, then the factor is going to be important for us. Sometimes there are also things of quite low probability, but they are still very dangerous, and we also need to take them into consideration. We need to pay special attention to them. If we want to deal with risk, first we need to identify all kind of risks that may come into play. Then we need to be able to estimate what kind of probability is connected with them and what impact they may have on our product, and we need to be able to include those calculations in our project plan and also to deal with them during the execution phase of our product. So to identify, we can rely on the previous project. So if we have enough experience, this is great. We can have some potential factors against which we need to check our project. So this is also based on our experience or on the experience of our organization, general knowledge, whatever. We need to use our imagination when checking WBS task and to say what happens if and so on. And we need to analyze our product network if we can find any potentially dangerous situations. We should be able to say the difference between probability, which is based on historical data, and likelihood, which is estimated by experts. And the experts, first of all, should be independent if we want the likelihood estimated by them to be reliable. So, what can we do with our risk if we want to deal with it? So there are several possibilities. First of all, transfer it. So if it doesn't cost too much, just buy an insurance. We can change the plans if we can say that the other plan is going to be better, or we can have our plan B in case of some risky factors coming into play, or we can accept the risk. Well, accepting the risk means that, well, we may be able to pay a little bit more, or we might be ready to delay our project if those risky factors come into play and the risk just materializes. Some general remarks about risk management. So it is as important as any other part of a project. So we include it into our project plan from the very beginning of our project. We need to be able to say that it can influence the time of our project, so the length of our project, the budget, and other factors, and it can change our project a lot. So we need to be able to consider extra resources, both to mitigate the risk, to avoid it, and so on. We should use our knowledge to deal with risk. We should be able to prepare other plans. In other words, we should be prepared for the worst, even if we do expect for the best. So, the next part is project execution. Please take a look at the picture. If you find it helpful, I might be lucky and happy. Anyway, let's move on. After talking about quality management, risk management, we need to focus on the execution. I know that, well, the execution phase takes usually most of the time of our project, but we have spent most of our time discussing how to plan a project. But the thing is that what we can learn is actually basically project planning. Execution, it might be smooth if our plan is good. but no plan, there is no perfect plan. So we will still need our imagination, and sometimes we need to make changes. So this execution phase lasts long, as I have said, but what we can say about project manager is not that long. I mean, the project manager needs to pay attention first of all to the schedule, to the specification, so to take care about the quality, budget and other factors that are included into the project plan. Especially the thing is that the project manager should, let's say, think ahead. So he's got his plans and checks if the next task is going to be executed in the right moment, and if there are resources needed, and so on. So this is what the project manager does, basing on the plan. If you have a plan, you just execute it. So there are two options. I mean, either the plan is good, then you can do it, even though you might have to make changes, whatever. Or the plan is not back, then is not good. Then well, lying and crying is the least drastic situation, as you can see. As you can see, crisis management is also not that good. And this is why we spent that much time on planning. Having said that, we need to make some remarks on technology and projects. So basically, people like to meet, but they don't need to meet all the time because they have computers, mobile phones, and things like Skype and Zoom. But what we can say is that the more strategic, the more important the things to be discussed, the higher the need to meet. Okay, the higher the need to meet face to face. But as the recent time has taught us, even some important decisions can be made online. So this is the change in the world that we are experiencing at the moment. We will see what it brings to management in general and product management. I assume that there are going to be changes, and they are not going to be smooth, and we are going to move into the world of technology more and more. But please remember that different people react in a different way to technology. As you can see in this picture, there are two different approaches, and maybe today the things are changing, but I wouldn't say that everybody loves technology. So keep it in mind. I mean, you need to take into consideration what kind of people you are working with. If there are people your age, then probably you know what they like. If they are not, then well, I don't know, you need to learn. You need to learn what kind of communication skills they have and what technology they prefer, or if they prefer meeting face to face. It depends on the circumstances. About meetings, some remarks. So we can use stand-up meetings, like every day, 15 minutes. I would say that these are my favorite. I mean, the shorter they are, the better they are. If they are stand-up, people do not fall asleep, which is another great thing about them. So they are short, they do not fall asleep, and you don't tell them too many things so they can remember, actually. So this is why they are perfect. So day by day you can assign the task to your people. I know it sounds like in the army, but it might be useful. They don't waste that much time. But these are not meetings where you can actually reflect on things when you can make decision. These are meetings where you can actually communicate your decisions, but as I've said, I prefer them. Informal reviews. So let's say that the product team meets every week for a revision, like this is informal, so everybody feels relaxed and they tell the truth. They are not going to make up for things they haven't done. This is also what I prefer. Formal review. Well, according to the product plan, so you know a year before that this is going to happen, and some people from the outside come and check if everything is okay. I know that some people hate those kind of reviews. I'm among them, but sometimes it is necessary. I mean, if I was a client, I would demand things like that from time to time to make them work for me according to the schedule. The other thing for today is product control. Product control, we need to understand, is more about technical things. You first set the norms, then you check if they are met, and if they are not, you just implement some changes. So you may imagine that it works like an air conditioner. So you set up the norm, which is a temperature in this case, and the device checks the value and it works until the value is met. So this is it. So there are things that we need to include in our project, and it is mostly technical. Okay, so you can use the numbers to show it. A remark on changes in the project. As you can see, here is the design phase. Okay, and here this is the execution phase. Actually, this is the cost, this is the timeline, of course. So if you make changes during the designing phase, they do cost something, but it's not that much. If you, on the other hand, implement changes during the execution phase, it is going to cost you a fortune. So this is another reason why we spend so much time planning and simulating in the computer, whatever, because we want to save money and our nervous system, of course. Monitoring. So this is about checking if everything is done according to the schedule from this, let's say, organizational point of view. So if the budget is spent correctly, if we are achieving our milestones according to the schedule, and so on and so on. This is like reporting. Okay, reporting that I've done this and that, and everything is going according to the plan. So preparing reports is what we do when we monitor our project. And then there's project evaluation. There's project evaluation, and the picture suggests that this is something, let's say, deeper than monitoring and control and so on. And indeed it is, because it is about the objectives and the long-term results. I mean, it says actually if the product actually works or not. Okay, so it doesn't check if everything is done the day it should be done. It is more like research. Yes, it is research, like fieldwork, interviews, tests, whatever, showing if the project is actually achieving its ends. So sometimes there are special people who perform evaluation. You can call them evaluators, whatever. So this is going deeper and checking if actually the project works in terms of achieving the aims. And as we know, the aims of the project are what the products are actually executed for. So if we don't achieve our aims, there's no sense executing projects. It might be interesting for you to know that there are 3 kinds of evaluation. So ex ante, before. So when an expert assesses the quality of a project before the project is executed, also it applies to strategies and things like that. So you need to have an expert, okay, somebody who will use his or her knowledge to check if it actually makes sense, if there are chances that you will achieve your results, your objectives, on site, in situ in Latin. So this is basically during the execution phase. You do it to try to improve your project, okay? So there's always something to be improved. So somebody checks your project and, let's say, that gives you good advice. And ex post, which is the most often, and it should be done, I would say, every time, and it shows if you have actually achieved your ends and why, and if you have not, it also should answer the question why not, okay? Why you haven't achieved your objectives. With this evaluation allows to draw some conclusions. It makes you better as a project manager, and it allows you to analyze the information that you have, and actually you should deal with all of your project, try to go deeper and try to check what actually works and what not, and this is not to be done, you know, just in one moment, because it takes time and effort to make it. You should also avoid things like hunting for the guilty persons, because it is too late, okay? They would focus on the self-defense, and this way they wouldn't tell you the truth. I mean, they wouldn't tell you why some things didn't work and so on. And your job here is to actually get to know why things do not work, okay, and how to improve them in general. Yeah. On the other hand, we are not using things like it wasn't so bad. I mean, we should focus on the things that have been done correctly and those that have not been done correctly, and we need to be able to learn from them and to improve our future projects. What do we evaluate? Well, everything. I mean, we start with the objectives and then other things that are connected to our objectives, and as we know, everything is connected to our objectives. So we evaluate plans, relations, budget, resources, tasks, whatever is necessary for us to come to our final conclusions and to make at least our future project better. So there are 3 things that are similar but are different. Control is technical, and you focus on some, let's say, parameters, on some technical issues, if everything is according to the specification of quality, in other words. Monitoring, which is focused on budget, schedule, things like that. And then there's evaluation, which focuses on the objectives and the quality of achieving the objectives, the quality of project, but in terms of the way they have achieved the objectives. So, some final tips. You need to have the numbers, the parameters that you will follow, and that will assure you that by checking them, you will be able to check if you are actually about to achieve your objectives. You don't need too many of them, but you need to stick to them, and you need to check everything if it leads you to achieving your objectives. You don't need to focus on many things, because this way you wouldn't be able to control everything. You don't need to control everything, but you need to control the right things and only the crucial things that assure that your product is going into the right direction. So controlling, monitoring, evaluation is always about choosing the right numbers to follow. And to sum up, quality, risk, control, everything is connected with money and time of your product. So you need to calculate, you need to decide what you can actually afford, what makes your project profitable, and what leads to achieving your objectives, and what is not that important and you can leave it aside. Okay, please remember the words that are coming. Prediction is very difficult, as we know, but it is especially difficult when it is about the future. It was Niels Bohr who said that, and as we know, there are some predictive models in science that are perfect predicting. Yeah, they are perfect when they need to predict things that have already happened, but predicting the future is not that easy. It is not that easy. So, in our product planning, we need to focus on planning. We need to pay a lot of attention to it, but we need to be ready to make quick decisions when things change. And this is our final remark of our subject. Thank you very much.